It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So, my friends, we have to make some serious decisions come May, and these decisions sometimes can affect our lives. One area we have to make decisions is the judgeships in Luzerne County. There are 2 new judges that will be put in this year. And it's important, very important, that we put the right ones in. So we have a series of shows here in the Sam Lesante Show to introduce you to some of the people who are running for judge. We're very happy to have on the show today Laura Dennis. Attorney Dennis has been around for a while, and she's looking to be your judge in Luzerne County. Laura, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We were talking, my friends, before the show, and you know, I show you the yellow pages, okay? And with all due respect, I'm not putting anything down, but in the yellow pages, there's 29 pages of lawyers, okay? And every page you have a very good professional picture and a slogan, etc. And I'm sure every one of those lawyers are fine, but what do we know about them, okay? And through television, the hearing and seeing, you're able to learn who that person is. Then when you see that ad or the billboard, you can say, oh yes, I know that person's character, etc. So I applaud you and everyone else who's running for any office today, particularly judgeship. So for those people who know you, they know all about you. Some people don't know you. Let's talk about who you are and a little bit about Laura Dennis.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I agree with you, because when I see the pages and the lots of advertising for lawyers, I sometimes feel sorry for the ad guys because they're trying to, sell some ads. Sure. And I've said the same thing to the ad guys over the years. And I've been a practicing lawyer now for 23 years. And I am proud of the work that I've done as an attorney. I'm not a politician, and I've never run for anything. So for me, having the opportunity to be able to share with people what my journey has been as an attorney is important to me. And that's where I want the voters to know who I am and what I stand for. And you are right, you cannot get that from just a piece of paper. You have to be able to express it.
I always, in a number of years, this is probably my over 4,000 or 5,000 shows I've done since 1989. But I always, when I'm interviewing people that are running for office or in a position, I always like to know the substance of the person. You know, when you're building out anything, you need a strong foundation, okay? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of shysters that come in and try to lie and tell you, especially when they're running for office, okay? And then, to me, I've seen all the phonies, Laura. I've seen them all, okay? Some of them don't come on the show because I ask them those questions. But your passion for, you love what you do. Law is part of you, isn't it?
It is, and I have to tell you that, 10 years ago in our county, we elected 6 judges. At that point, I had been out of law school 13 years. I had done a lot of work at that time, but to me, I would not have stood at that point in my career and asked somebody to vote for me to be a judge. It's like doing a book report without not having read all the chapters. That was my journey. I thought at that time, and I knew I loved being a lawyer, and I always had a desire in my heart that at some point, if the opportunity was right, I would run for judge and ask someone to vote for me, which is, to me, the core of our democracy, our vote. So if I'm gonna ask you to vote for me, like you just said, I better not be a shyster, I better not be trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. I believe in my heart that you have to know what you're doing and have paid your dues and been on this journey of practicing law. And now, after 23 years of practicing and representing hundreds of clients, doing everything in a courtroom from jury trials to motions, settlements, every kind of legal proceeding you could do, I'm now comfortable where I could say to our voters with absolute confidence that I'm asking for your vote because I believe I am the most qualified to hold this position.
Well, you're doing so well as a lawyer, okay? And being a judge, in fact, sometimes you make less money, being a judge than if you're a practicing attorney, okay? But that's, looking at salary-wise. If you're doing so well as an attorney, which you are doing, and you've handled that case, what made you decide that you wanted to go and become a judge in Luzerne County?
So I'm blessed to have a good business that I have built up on my own. I serve as a solicitor for a borough. I work as a part-time solicitor for our county, and I really do have a great base of clients after this many years. So running for judge is not a financial decision for me. It's about the next step in my career. It's about what I've learned for 23 years practicing in front of many judges. And my husband he's a tow truck driver, and he is a big advocate of everything you learn does not come from a book, and he's 100% right.
He's dead on.
He's
dead on.
He's right.
Yes.
And the thing for me is you could learn so much in law school and you could pass every test that they give you. Yeah. But until you have been there and you have been in a courtroom and you see a style of a judge where sometimes, you see a judge's style, and I learn as much about the kind of judge I would want to be by watching other judges. I was in a county north of Luzerne County once, and it was an estate settlement. It was a litigation. It was very contentious, and we had, it's tough with families sometimes, and money, and there's fighting, and you go to court, you're litigating, and I just remembered that day leaving the courtroom, and we were there a long time that day, but we were guided so effectively by a wonderful judge who listened to everybody, who let everybody have their chance to speak, who cared about each person in that courtroom. We left that day and we were able to settle the case. And it was many hours that we were there. But it was just watching his style and watching the way he approached things. And I left that day thinking, I learned more today watching how he treated us and watching, the interaction that I would have never learned, just reading a book about it. So that to me is why now running for judge, I believe it's not a catchphrase, but I believe in maintaining the integrity of our courts. I think that now more than ever, we have to keep our courts fair and really respect every single person that's in there. And, I say in my announcement that I think every docket number is not just a docket number. It is about people, it's about families, business. And as a lawyer, there have been times in my career, I have been in court 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, sometimes multiple courtrooms. And those, I said I didn't think of being a lawyer as a physical job until I had weeks like that, and I'm, running up the steps and trying to get to another courtroom. But I think that when you have a case and I'm with my client and, we're waiting to get called, I'm used to sitting in a courtroom. So I know that feeling of the client, of the nervousness, of the apprehension, of wanting to make sure that there's a lot of people sometimes in a courtroom. There's cases that move fast. There's things that are going on quickly. But to that individual, that's the most important time, maybe in their life, and it's certainly one of the most nerve-wracking times of their life. So because of my experience representing clients for so long, as a judge, I know what it's like to have people in front of you that this isn't their space. If I go to the hair salon, they know what's going on there. If, I go to get my car worked on, they know what's going on there. In a courtroom, the lawyers and the judges know what's going on there, but the people that come in every day, that's not a place they usually are. And a lot of times not a place they want to be. So you have to really have that respect for people coming in. And I think that having brought all that from my career from many, many years and again, doing a lot of different kind of cases, where you can, as a judge, I would love the opportunity to make sure that that's the atmosphere in my courtroom.
So here's the question, okay? Meeting your mom and hearing about your family, it's a warm, loving family, okay? You need to check your emotions at the door when you are a judge. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part, because you are just saying every docket, you're talking about a person's life, you're talking about you could change them forever. So coming from that loving family that you have, okay, how are you going to do that, Laura?
Well, I agree, because you are what you are.
Yeah,
So, and my emotions are certainly part of that.
Yeah.
I've been given the opportunity to be an arbitrator for our county for many years. At a magistrate level, they cap the cases off at $14,000, I believe is the number now. So once you move to common pleas court, there's much bigger cases involved. And they have an arbitration panel for people whose cases are less than $50,000. So for many years, I've served on that panel, hearing lots of different kind of cases. And I, at one point, was a special master in divorce. And that is tough for me, because I believe family law is so highly emotional. I don't practice a lot in that area, but as a master, you're seeing a lot of the paperwork, because you know what they're arguing about or trying to decide. So you do hear them. And I think that this is where, you have to check the emotion a little. You hear each side, and then at the end of the day, you follow the law, no matter what your personal preference is. And that's been tough for me as a lawyer sometimes, because you have clients that are upset and they want things a certain way. And as their lawyer, I have to explain to them, you could want this all day long, but this is the law, and we have to be able to address that. So I address it as a lawyer, with clients. While, they are still entitled to their opinion and their side, and I always want to make sure that that is completely respected and addressed, but at the same time giving them the good advice of what the law is, because I would be negligent as a lawyer if I didn't, I don't want to paint a rainbow for them sometimes as a lawyer, and as a judge, it's following the law the way it's written at the end of the day.
Sometimes you have clients and, you're in court and the judge makes a decision and you're upset with that decision. And you
That
think,
never happened.
No,
Just kidding.
yeah, well, you're upset with the decision. And then you say, if I were the judge, I would have done this, okay? And I'm sure that has happened many times, because you see it for your client, not because it's your client, but you see something that the judge really did not make the decision that was appropriate at the time. Again, not being a lawyer, I'm just trying to put my human feelings in here. So what have you learned in the 23 years that you're going to say, well, if I'm a judge, I'm not going to have this happen to me, okay?
That's good. There have been times where I've been, and I do practice in a lot of counties, so I don't just practice in Luzerne County, but there have been times where you're a lawyer in another county, you're not, you're an out-of-town lawyer, and
That should have no bearing on
it
the law.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
No, not on the law, but sometimes just even the way your case is treated.
Yeah.
I've been in courtrooms where, there's judges who go out of their way. Like if you don't have the right form, that one count, we vary in different areas. And as a lawyer, that's one thing that, I would be happy in Luzerne County for us to discuss some opportunities to expand some of our treatment courts or things that are being done in other counties. So that's a separate issue, things that I'd like, us to do. But as a judge, when I'm away in a different county, sometimes they'll say, do you have this form? And I'll say, oh, we use a different form in Luzerne County. And some of them are great, they'll go out of their way, they'll make sure, and the other side helps along, and those are good times. And then yes, there are times where, you leave a little bit frustrated. So I have to say, I think listening is probably my number one thing for being the most fair and respectful judge that I could be. because a lot of times I think if we would have had a chance to talk about this, if we could have expanded on something else, you know, maybe it would have, you know, gone a little bit differently. But, you know, for the most part, you know, it's good, but
We like to fine tune things. Okay, I worked many years with Jack Palance, Academy Award winner Jack, and we did a lot of things together. I remember Jack telling me that, Sammy, when you're done with a show, all right, you may even think his show is great. How could you make it 10% better the next time? Mm-hmm. And then after that, try to make it better. So as a lawyer, and you're explaining that, 23 years, you've seen some things, you've fine-tuned things all the time, which then gives the person the opportunity. I'm in front of Judge Dennis. She's fair and she's honest. That's what you want to hear, okay? Even though you're a nervous wreck, okay, and that's human nature, you know that the judge is coming out, you have faith in that judge, because again, you're controlling people's lives, you know? Your family, tell me about your family.
Well, my mom and dad, Jimmy and Diane, they were, my dad was a school teacher his first 34 years of his career, and he always enjoyed, I didn't know this word until he did it, and I'm probably going to screw the word up, numistus? He always dealt with coins. He loved it. And he always did that as a hobby. And then once he retired from teaching, he opened his own store. He's been open for 11 years now. And he does gold buying and that kind of thing. And my mom, we like to torment her. She's a retired gym teacher. And now I have two sisters, Lisa and Jamie, and between the three of us, there are 6 grandchildren, and my mother does nothing but run from morning to night for every one of us with every kid, and she's like the backbone that keeps everything together.
And Dante, your husband?
Dante's my husband. I have a 19-year-old stepson, Dante Tyler, and my husband and I have a 10-year-old daughter, Mia. She's a 5th grader, and they are in school, thank God. Yeah. So it's been busy.
Good. Folks, I'm talking to Laura Dennis. She's running for Common Pleas in Luzerne County. There's 2 new judges. As we discussed, you like to know the person who you're voting for, the substance of the person, other than, you know, I get a kick with it. We got to put a lot of signs out. We got to, well, if you don't know the person, I don't care how many signs you have, my friends. I don't care how many billboards you had. You need to know who that person is, and we're getting a good idea of who Laura is. We'll take a break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, SSPTV.com. All of the programs are there. 21 local neighborhood programs we've been producing for many, many years. My email, sam@ssptv.com. May 18th, as we talked at the beginning of the show, is an important day. It's a primary, and in the Luzerne County, the judges are running. There's 2 new judges we'll be putting in. We have a person on today who wants to be that judge, and that's Laura Dennis. Her website's on the screen. Please check them out. Know who the people are. Laura, we were talking about, you know, your legal experience. You've been around different areas, right, in practicing law, because I guess that's a prerequisite to becoming a judge. Okay, you just. You know.
I think it is.
Well, I would think that's the case. Yeah. But being a judge, you're still a human being. You're a person, and you're a people person. Okay, so people coming in are just like you, even though you're sitting on the bench. All right. So what were some of the things that you've done in the community that makes you, you know, one of us working and doing things with kids and whatever?
Well, I've always been active in the community, and I have to say that I am 47, so I became a mom at almost 37, and that helped me to really switch gears. As any parent knows, you become totally accustomed to a new way of life once you become a parent. So one thing has been consistent for me. I've always been active in our church, whether I was living away for school or home. I lector at church. I I have to say, I could go in front of a jury and speak and talk here with you, but when I get up to lecture at church, I do not know what happens. I get nervous.
God's watching.
God's watching. The word, I tease Monsignor Sempa that if it's over 3 syllables, I can't do the reading for some of those words. But so I always like helping in our church. I've always, for many years, I've been involved in the Junior League of Wilkes-Barre. It's a wonderful group that does a lot of volunteer work in the community. We each month choose a different thing to do that we could get done in one day, and I would encourage anybody to come and join Junior League. We do one business per year, and this year we're doing Sleep in Heavenly Peace, or the past year where they build beds for kids, and we get an opportunity to hear a lot of different needs in the community too. And then I do, things locally, our Little League, and then as a parent, my daughter's school, I'm always trying to help do something there. I'm always amazed at the parents that really do a lot, because that is a challenge. I have every respect for the people who run the parent-teacher organization and the booster clubs, because that's a lot. So I try and do my part. I'm always trying to help out. But
looking at the the legal experience, and again, you're asking the voters in Luzerne County to vote for you to be judge. With that being said, reiterate some of the things of why we should vote for you for judge.
Well, I'd like to even go back to, law school and talk about, I was able to spend 2 summers in Geneva, Switzerland. I was able to study there, and that is still a perspective that, I keep with me now. We were able to have professors of law from European countries come in and talk to us about things in American law that were really different over in Europe. A lot of it, being the death penalty and gun issues, and the ability to have guns. So I've been able to learn from back before I was even able to practice law, a lot of different perspective. Now, as judges, of course, we enforce the law. We're there just to enforce the law. But over time, through, like you said, you're representing a client, you have a side. And I think, when people say they're going to fight for something, I think the fighting stops at the judicial bench, because on this side of the bench, when you're a judge, you set the tone. You now are allowed to make sure that everything's fair, to make sure everything's even. You don't have to, fight for a certain thing, because you've set the tone. You're going to say what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, who's going to be heard, so you could keep everything fair. So throughout my career, I feel like it's luggage that I've been packing up for a long time to take with me.
You have bench trials, jury trials, hearings, motions, and every type of procedure handled in the court of law. So you've covered the entire gamut.
I have, and that's why I said 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been comfortable because I just felt there was more I wanted to do in my career. We have some heavy hitters in our bar association. We have some majorly accomplished attorneys, and I think as a judge, if I saw some of them coming in and I didn't know what I was doing, I would be scared because this is.
Yeah, sometimes lawyers will intimidate an experienced judge. But knowing what you're saying is that when you have full control of what the law is, even though you respect that lawyer, that they're not going to intimidate you.
Well, and it's not even about intimidation as much as it about knowing what you're doing.
Yes.
Because, if you have, when I was a young lawyer, I was fortunate enough to be involved in a major class action lawsuit. My role was what happened was there was a need for someone in our area to represent clients. We found that I had a friend in Philadelphia working on a class action, and she said, nobody up in this area is working on this. So I got with another guy in the office, we ran an ad, and long story short, we ended up representing 845 people in this area. As a young lawyer, again, this is not something I could learn in law school. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. We had tons of clients, and then we had people that we represented individually. So it was wonderful. We were able to you know, it's a big case.
Well, Laura, you got a minute left.
Uh,
There's your camera right here. Tell the people why they should vote for Laura Dennis for judge in Luzerne County.
Thank you. I'm Laura Dennis. I've been practicing law for over 23 years. I believe in maintaining the integrity of our courtrooms. If I'm elected judge, I promise you, everyone will be treated with respect. Everyone will be heard. Thank you.
Well, I wish you the best, okay? And it was nice meeting your mom. They're making sure that you do everything right, just like a typical mom
That's
should.
right.
Nice meeting you, Mrs. Dennis. Remember, folks, May 18th is very important. Know the candidate. There's the website. Learn about the candidate, because someday you may be in front of that person, and you want to make sure that that person is going to be fair and honest with you. And that's why it's so important to know who the person is. So I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next time.